Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is The Witcher 2 Dark Mode Difficulty video walkthrough. We're still in Chapter 1, and this is the Endrega contract. So, this is a pretty lengthy video, because you're going to see me traversing the forests to find the Endregas, to find the eggs, which are a sign that you can get a queen nearby. And then you're going to see me fight the queens, which it's one of those fights that is as easy as you make it in ways. I could level up immensely. You know, I could focus on farming for a couple of hours and get a much stronger Geralt. As it stands, I have two of the most powerful weapons that you can use at this moment. I don't have runes crafted on them to make them stronger, which would definitely help. I do have a handful of potions and a handful of oils, which I will be using to boost my damage. But as it stands, I'm hitting average damage, and obviously dark mode is scaled in such a way that the enemies have quite a lot of life. They do on every difficulty, it doesn't really matter, so you generally find yourself having to hit them quite a lot. And there are ways to do criticals and things like that. Oh, this is the moment where I realised that I don't have the bombs, because what I was going to do on this video is I was going to do two birds with one stone. I was going to do the Necker contract, and I was going to do the Endrega contract. When I got to the hole and I realised that I couldn't do the Necker one, I decided to focus on the Endrega. And on my first playthrough, when I fought the queens, my strategy was pretty simple. I would drop the, I think it's called Yrden, which is the trap on the ground. This is me still figuring out that I don't have the right bombs to do this. You know, it was only my second playthrough when I recorded this, guys. I wasn't quite as knowledgeable as I am now post that playthrough. So there's me swapping to the Endregas. Not that it really makes a difference, because one of the things that I've seen a lot of people criticise this game for on forums is that a lot of the submissions don't have a very good waypoint. And when you combine that with the fact that the map is pretty damn horrific at times, it leads to confusing players, which I can completely understand, but at the same time I come from an era of gaming where waypoints didn't exist, maps didn't exist, and you know, the entire point of the game was to explore and find things which were different to everything else you were looking at. And it's an interesting, you know, like, dichotomy, because it's two different mentalities towards game design. The first one is, you know, a much more older look on how a game should play, which I think there's a charm to that design choice. It makes it, you know, feel antiquated to some people, but there's a novelty to it. I wouldn't say nostalgia, I would just say novelty. And then on the flip side, there's a lot of people that are so used to having their handheld when they play games that they'll probably not see any good to it. It's just, you know, unnecessary, needs to be fixed, should be different, bad game design, which I also understand that perspective, but I'm a little bit more forgiving because I really like the game. But here are some Endregas. There's two of them. One is a guard, the other one I think is just a standard Endrega. Their attacks are simple enough. If they do a little animation, it means they're going to charge at you. They kind of signpost it before they do it, and if it hits you more than once. And on dark difficulty, it hurts, so it's easy to avoid, but it's also easy to get caught in. And here's me waiting for the game to allow me to pick things up. As you can see, it takes a fucking lifetime. Like, what is this? And I think the game thinks there's still bad guys around me, and there are a couple of red signs on the map, but I can't see anything, and it's still having none of it, so there must be a Necker or some creature somewhere that's stopping me from being able to pick things up. Oh, there we go, it was an Endrega, so we get someone else to kill. One strategy you can do early on in the game is you can kill and farm the Endregas until you have, I think it's 15 teeth, Endrega teeth. If you do that, it'll enable you to have probably the best standard steel sword on Chapter 1, which is the Jagged Blade, or the Jagged Edge. I'm not too sure of its name. That weapon is one of the strongest. It's a quick weapon, so it's not slow like the Espadon that I'm using. And it also has two rune slots on it, I think, which you can dump with whichever runes you like and make it really powerful for this early on. I personally have never done that because I didn't really want to farm. And another way you can do it, which is the way I prefer to do it, is there is a lady in one of the houses in, I think it's Lobinden, just outside of Flotsam, those little fisherman village. And one of those ladies sells Endrega teeth, so if you have a lot of money, you can just keep waiting 24 hours to restock her shop and buy the teeth. And that way you can get the jagged blade without doing any farming. And I think if I'd have known that when I recorded this, I probably wouldn't have used the Espadon. Because as good as this sword is, and this sword is very, very good, I like the mobility of the faster swords. Because the mobility is everything in this game. And it allows you to do things that you just can't do when you have the slower swords. And if you haven't noticed what's happening here, I'm opening the eggs and I'm destroying them and picking up the embryos. You know, kind of a metaphor for like really, really harsh abortion rules. And when you do that, the queen will materialise and you get to fight the queen. So, add, strike twice, back away. That is the way I'm going to be fighting it, nice and simple. You'll notice every so often I'll hit it once because I'm waiting for that. Did you see it? That is one of those attacks when it blocks you and it counterattacks. There's a 50-50% chance that you will have enough time to roll away. Because the roll that Geralt does, if you've not upgraded it, and even if you have, is not so great. And I think at this point, I don't have the better roll, so I'm kind of at the mercy of a lacking roll. Here we go. Like you see, that was so close. And the worst part about it is you know what you need to do. As soon as you see it block, all you want to do is evade. But because he rebounds off the blow, he can't do it. And you can get hit like I just did then. And I don't know if you saw that, folks, but that was half of my life in that one hit. You know, I hit that thing, what, 30 times maybe? I was hitting it in its critical spots. I was, you know, taking it on face. Nothing. That thing hits me once, boom, half my life, so you gotta be careful. Everything, what the hell am I? Everything is in the German language. No, everything is profoundly dangerous, and especially if it hit you from behind. The game allows you to mitigate the critical factor on your back by investing skill points into it. So if you get hit a lot from behind, or you're just not very aware of your surroundings, you can lower it by 50%, but it's still so damn high. I personally think it's probably a waste of points. But the cool thing about this game is everyone's going to play it differently, because it's one of those kind of RPGs. Everyone's going to have their own unique setup, and you know, hopefully that'll pay off. Because mine is, you know, it's as basic as it gets. I'm literally using the mechanics and using the swords. That is it, you know. I like using swords, as I've expressed already. And once again, I'm just hoping that the evolution of the combat in Witcher 3 is something really special, because I think this game could be so much more than what it is. But I'm looking for the second Endrega queen. There's going to be neckers all over this place. There's quite a lot of them as well. The Necker Warrior, the one you want to watch, they do a lot of damage with that jump attack they do, and because of the nature of the way the lock-on works, when you're running away from enemies, you're giving them your back. And every so often, they'll do a jump attack you're not expecting, and they'll clip you, and they'll do some sick damage. So you want to be really careful of that. On the first Witcher, I'm really surprised that they didn't keep one aspect of the combat system that I really like. And the combat on the first game, if you don't know, you click your mouse to attack an enemy, and as he swings the sword, the cursor changes. And there's about a second or two window when it changes, and if you click the mouse, when it changes to the icon, you get an additional hit in the combo, and you get a bonus damage effect. And you can do this up to, I think it's 3 or 4 times, and then you get a finishing move. And I think that kind of combat system would have made this combat system so much better if you could do it. You know, if there was a skill that allowed your combat to go that way, or if it was just a choice of disciplines, you know, traditional combat or, you know, Witcher 2 combat, it might have been, you know, something worthwhile. Because it always makes me think of Super Smash Bros. Melee, which is a very strange comparison. But my favourite character on that game was a character called Marth. and he had a guy who was essentially just a palette swap of him, which was Roy, and both of these characters had this ability to do a combo. It was one of their B moves, where when you pressed forward, I think it was forward and B, down and B, left and B, up and B, right, you know, any direction and B, you would do the beginning of this combo, and if you knew the correct inputs, upon landing each part of the combo, if you put the next one in, it would do the next hit, you know, like a chain throw in a beat-em-up. And it was, you know, it wasn't difficult to do, but it was tricky in the heat of battle, and it really separated good math players from bad ones. And that is kind of what it feels like when I play Witcher 1 with this click system. And the combat on this is good, it's decent, but it's lacking in so many ways that, you know, your Devil May Cry's don't, your Ninja Gaidens don't, your God of War's don't, that kind of thing. And it's that cohesion and depth that I think the game would really benefit from. And it's the same thing I've been saying about Oblivion and Skyrim. You know, the combat on those games is the worst part of those games. And there are people that love it, and I'm aware of this because they generally comment on my videos when I make this kind of statement. But people need to look at it objectively for what it is. It hasn't changed since Morrowind, and it wasn't good then. Like, all you do is flail. There's a block that barely works. There is a parry move which is kind of worthless. You know, the magic is really good, but it's, you know, only if you want to use magic. A lot of the playstyles I adopted just to get out of combat, which a lot of people do, is the sneaking bow techniques where you just get critical hits with bows and you creep around like some kind of perverted elf. And that's all good and well, but when you spend 60 hours playing a game doing nothing else, it gets really boring. And I wish those games would make the combat as good as everything else. And I think the moment that they do is the moment when, you know, we stop making games because everybody just accepts the best game ever has been made and no one will ever beat it. Which would be a terrible day, but it would be one hell of a damn game. And it's very similar to this. Like, instead of having this combo system of light and heavy attacks, which I do enjoy even on this game, which is kind of derivative and not all that useful, if you only were limited to a single attack and then the combos came from additional inputs when you pressed the correct timing, it would really make it interesting, and you could customize what the additional inputs were. If you could do a stun hit, or if you could do, you know, like a bleed hit or some kind of, you know, magical hit, it could really just add that extra dimension. But I've leveled up and I'm looking to see what I've got, checking my gear. I know I'm about to take on the Arachnus, so you'll notice that I'm going to probably use a Rook potion, and I'm also going to use the Falca's oil on my sword, and that way I've got the buffs of the environment using my medallion, and I'm pretty much prepared to do as much damage as my Geralt can do. And someone in the comments on the previous videos who's quite a big Witcher 2 guy mentioned that if you go down the alchemist path, you can get access to ridiculously powerful abilities that make the potions and all that kind of stuff kind of broken in how strong they are. And the example that the person used was the ability to stack a bunch of potions together to give you like a ridiculous damage increase where you could kill the dragon boss in 7 hits or something like that, he said, which, I mean, I fought that dragon boss and it took me a hell of a lot more than 7 hits, so I'm really curious as to what that's like. So I think I'm probably going to do a playthrough where I go down the alchemy path and see if I can get a wickedly strong Geralt and see how much of a difference it makes in the overall game. Because with the looks of that path, it's one of those where early on it doesn't really benefit you too much because it's a slow progress, but as soon as you get a midway down the tree towards the end, it starts paying off in dividends, which, you know, is good, but it's one of those things where are you willing to have the patience to go with it to get that payoff, and some players will, some players won't. It's definitely a preferential thing, which I'm really curious to see like that damage. I'm probably going to do some googling after I record these, mainly because I want to see if you can really embarrass the bosses, because I've already managed to embarrass most of the bosses on the game, but I still, you know, it still took a while to kill them, It'd be really good if you could just absolutely shit stomp them with 2 hits or 1 hit, like one-shotting bosses on dark mode. That might be quite cool to try. 'Cause, I've had the idea of a no upgrade run, which, when I say upgrade, I mean probably no leveling, no abilities. I will be upgrading the weapons. Actually, you know, depending on how it goes, maybe I won't. I don't know. I want to play the game again, and I want a reason to do so. Because I really like the game, it's cool. And if you're wondering why I've come over here, I'm doing this so that I can do a troll side quest later on. Because once you kill these neckers, you can talk to the farmer guy, or whatever he is, and he's going to mention how the bridge has been broken, and how there's a troll that started drinking and is not repairing the bridge, and it used to... You know, it used to keep the bill... What the fuck am I on about? It used to keep the bridge in full working order for a price. You know, it was illegal because it didn't pay taxes on its money, but it kept the bridge working, it kept commerce coming into Flotsam and what have you, and now for some reason it's stopped. So that is another side mission you're going to see me do, because it's one I quite enjoy. And I had all intentions on this playthrough of killing the trolls for the achievement, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. Because I actually really liked them. And that is not like me at all. You ask any of my friends, I'm the guy who is bad, generally, in all games I play. You know, if you put me in a sandbox and give me the option to be good or bad, I will always be a villain. Every single time. You know, I'm just wicked to the bone when I play games, and it's just so much more fun. But on this one, I don't know. I kind of felt sorry for the trolls, I kind of liked them, understood the strife, and decided to help them. So the only thing left to do now is to go back to Merce and collect our reward, which is what I believe you're going to be seeing in the rest of this video. And the people just hanging there, man. How long have they been hanging there? I really do like the aesthetic of this game with stuff like that, with the details. With the crows especially, there's a lot of crows about. And I bet on PC this game looks phenomenal. Because I just get the feeling that they took out a lot of stuff for the console version to make it work. And I'm like, most of that assumption comes from playing The Witcher 1. The first Witcher's got so much more detail than this one, and this game was a couple of years later, which tells me that on PC it's probably phenomenal. But there you go, guys, that is the end of the mission. Hopefully it helped anybody out who was struggling with it, and if not, you just enjoyed the video anyhow. Thank you for watching. You take care now.
Any idea why Laredo...
Commandant Laredo has Flotsam's...
But the troll...
Not likely. To start with, that's a dangerous...
On your desk.
Yes.
Would you mind?
Absolutely no problem. Enjoy your reading.
So long. So long.